Good morning. This is Abraham Walker with Ask A Walker, your Northern Virginia real estate agent. Um, this is the start of a video series that I'm doing that really started. This conversation started about a month ago when I was thinking. Um, First, I can't afford to have Gary Keller, who's the founder of Keller Williams, as my business coach. But I was wondering, what if Gary Keller was my coach? If you think about it, when you read a book from somebody who is not with you, or maybe somebody who is not in your presence, or maybe they're no longer living, you're essentially getting advice from that individual, right? Now, you can decide if you want to use that advice or if the advice is not applicable to you. And you're still the person that's giving you the advice. The author is still giving you his words through the book. So I was thinking to myself, what what would it be like if I went an entire year as if Gary Keller was my coach? If you're inside the Keller Williams organization, you know that they have different memes going around our company where there'll be a picture of Gary Keller and it'll say something like, if Gary was watching you, how would you perform today? Or you didn't lead generate today, and they'll have a picture of Gary Keller. And I was thinking, like, how could you channel that through an entire year? Like, how could you mustered up the ability to deal with the accountability that someone like Gary Keller would place on you? So I thought, why not just test it on myself for the next year, and see where it goes. So with this series, the way this series will work, every Friday I'll post a video that essentially will sound like a coaching session from Gary Keller. So it'll be what I think a coaching session from Gary Keller would be like. It would be what I believe he would say to me based on the books that he's written, based on the classes that he's developed. Yeah, and so every Friday we'll go through that process. So this is day one, and the reason why this is day one, so 5 years ago today, I moved from New Orleans, Louisiana, to Alexandria, Virginia, which is in Northern Virginia, for the hope of giving my kids a better life, a better lifestyle, more opportunities, and a less crime ridden environment, right? Because I have African American boys and African American men in New Orleans, there's a high crime rate, right? So we want to move, and this day today marks the fifth year anniversary of that move. And what an amazing year it would be to go through this year as if the founder of my company was actually monitoring my progress, right? So I want to walk through some of the items that I'm going to be using through this challenge, and you can keep up to date with this challenge using a hashtag MyCoachGK, and so that's hashtag MyCoachGK. And so you'll be able to follow along. So every Friday I'll post a updated accountability video. Let's go through some of the items that we'll be covering in this really almost a year, almost 13-month video series, right? So we'll be tracking some numbers based on four models that are mentioned in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, right? So this is the book, and this is the leadership edition with the spiral tabs, the spiral binding, and the tabs. So the four models it talks about is the economic model, the lead generation model, the budget model, the organizational model. And we're going to say to ourselves, if Gary Keller was monitoring our business, if he was coaching us on a weekly basis, what would he want to see from us every week based on those four models? So that means you would have to have those models in place, and you would also have to have some type of goal set to that model. There are going to be a few numbers that we'll be tracking throughout this entire process. We'll be tracking the number of contacts made, number of appointments set, listings taken, listings sold, sold volume, and gross revenue. And we'll be sharing those numbers on this weekly. I guess sharing the gross sold would make sense on a weekly basis. So maybe we'll do like a monthly version where we'll do a monthly recap of those sold volume and gross revenue numbers. In addition to that, one of the biggest things I see when I talk to other Keller Williams agents is that nobody is really implementing the 8x8 and the 33 touch. And if Gary Keller was coaching you, he would probably want you to have that implemented since it's in the book. So we're going to fully implement the 8x8 and the 33 touch on everyone that's in our database and every contact that's added. In addition to that, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book talks about having 1,900 plus people in your database. So we're also going to go and actually put together a database full of 1,900 individuals who have all gone through the 8x8 and 30 touch program. Creating your allied resources, which is your top 5. This year and during this program, we're going to create our top 5, and we'll let you know who those individuals are. A part of the process of channeling Gary Keller as a coach, since I can't afford him as a coach, is to read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book 4 times during or throughout this entire session, right? And so this is essentially saying, okay, I can't afford to have this mentor, or maybe this mentor isn't with us any longer. How can I channel this individual? And we're fortunate enough to have the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And if you're a Keller Williams agent, we also have the training courses that he's developed. So we'll also talk about what training courses we're going through at this time. In addition to that, we want to have some minimum standards that are put in place, right? So minimum standards are, what is the minimum output that you can have if you're a results-based individual. And since we're channeling Gary Keller, and since he hasn't given us any standards per se, what we can go off of is the classes or the courses that are available to us through Keller Williams. So what I did was I went through the Ignite course, and I said, okay, great. So the Ignite course is our introductory course for agents that are just starting out in the business, and it is designed for them to launch their business successfully, right? So the way I look at this is that is the minimum standard for our agents, or in agents in general. So that's what we're going to use as our minimum standard of productivity or production, right? And so that minimum standard is it's 4 criteria for the week. It's 10 contacts per day. It's 10 people added to your database. It's 10 thank you notes written every day, and it's 10 homes previewed on a weekly basis. Look at that cardinal back there. Do you see it? It's right there. Oh, that's beautiful. Our backyard is full of like wildlife. Anyway, so 10 contacts per day. So that's actually a conversation with an individual every day, right? 10 contacts. Then 10 people added to your database. I just want to kind of spend a little time with the 10 people added to your database. So if you're following along and you want to also administer this same type of system, it makes sense to get some clarity around what does it mean to add someone to your database. We're not talking about just making a list of people and compiling the list and just having that list and saying this is my database. That's essentially the yellow pages or the white pages. When you say that you're adding someone to the database, you're actually saying that you're going to run that person through that new contact, that new individual, that new addition through the 8x8 and the 33 touch program. So the act of adding them to the database is also agreeing to actually put them through the touch program that's also mentioned in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. And then 10 handwritten thank you notes every day, and 10 homes previewed every week, right? So that's our minimum standard. Now, if the goal is to work up to, just like any workout regimen, you really want to work your way up to, I guess, like an elite athlete performance. And so for me, what I look at as the standard for an elite athlete performer in the Keller Williams system is the bold training class, right? And so in bold, it talks about making 20 contacts a day, right? And so the goal is to work up from the 10 contacts per day and 10 people added to your database per day to 20 contacts per day and 20 people added to your database per day and 20 thank you notes written every day, right? And so that's the focus. The focus is to move from Ignite which is a Keller Williams training course, to Bold, which is also a Keller Williams training course that's designed to get you into elite performance, right? Excellent. So those are our minimum and our maximum standards. The next thing we'll also cover throughout this session is we'll go through several of the Keller Williams training programs as if Gary Keller was administering those programs. Oftentimes when I talk to my associates that are in the Keller Williams system, I find that none of them have actually walked themselves through a course that's offered through Keller Williams University without having a teacher present. And I think that that's a travesty, because it limits your potential for performance, because you have to wait for somebody to administer the course to you. Whereas I look at Keller Williams University as a library, and the library is open to anyone who wants to check out a book. So we're going to check out the courses, and we're going to run our business as if the course was administered by Gary Keller, which means that we're just not reading the materials. Our goal is to actually implement the information that's obtained in the course in our business. So there's 2 courses in mind that come up. Well, really 3 courses that I'm thinking about right now that we'll actually go through the entire process with. The first course is Lead Generation 36-12-3. And then the remaining courses are Win with Sellers and Win with Buyers, or Winning with Sellers and Winning with Buyers, right? And so these are 3 courses that were implemented, created by the Keller Williams models based upon other agents that they've seen successful in the industry. That sometimes our agents and my fellow Keller Williams associates, they wait for a class to come around when they could just check out the course, print it out, and walk themselves through the process. So I'm going to walk myself through the process as if Gary Keller taught the course, and as if Gary Keller had expectations of me performing after I took the class. Now, finally, we have some accountability tools that we'll be using as if Gary Keller was my coach. I've heard some stories since I've been in Keller Williams now for 5 years, so there's a lot of folklore around Gary Keller, and one of the things that I've heard that may be a myth is when he did used to coach agents individually, one assignment he would give you is he would have you actually create a 135 and a 411 that you had to turn in before each coaching session. Now the 135 isn't modified throughout the year, it's just a part of your vision or your goals for the year, right? But the 411 is updated on a weekly basis. And if you didn't have your 411 prepared by the time Gary by the time it was time for your coaching session, he would pick up the phone and he would say, you didn't turn in your 411. And then the person would probably give him an excuse like, oh, I was too busy, I was all this. And then Gary Keller would just hang up on the person, right? Because it showed that the individual wasn't prepared for the coaching session. And they also devalued Gary Keller's time in that session. So my goal is, and my focus is, so for my Friday videos, which will be my Friday updates to show a true coaching relationship, is that I'll have my 135, my 411, my list of contacts that I've made for the week, and some type of database summary. And what I'm thinking about for the database summary is when you're making contacts with individuals, you know that making a contact and actually setting an appointment is really considered a home run in the real estate business, and it's really not something that you should focus on, right? Making contacts and setting appointments, it's very exciting. If you haven't made phone call prospected before, or door knocked and set an appointment on the spot, it's one of the most exciting things that you can really do in our business, and it is really like hitting a home run, or it's really like a football play where it's the long bomb, right? It's like an 80-yard pass. It's not something that is normal or typical in the real estate business. So your focus is really on starting a relationship with the first contact, and then moving that person through your touch program, or your 8x8 or 30 touch program. So my goal or my focus will be on some type of database summary that says okay, I had this many contacts and I had this many connections with the people that were in my database to make sure that I understand what Gary Keller is always talking about is that your database is your business, right? And your relationship with your database will ultimately determine how successful you are in this real estate business, right? You are developing a database. You happen to sell real estate to that database, right? And that's it. That was a lot. Like I said, I've been thinking about this for a month. I also did not want to go through this program because it's very stressful to transition from what I was doing, which was not to say I wasn't accountable to anybody. It's just that once you place accountability on an individual, it becomes a much more intense relationship, right? And I feel that today is my 5th year in Alexandria, Virginia, moving from New Orleans, right? And I'm 35 at this time. I'm going to be 36 in November, and I'm not getting younger, right? And it doesn't make sense to play around with real estate. It doesn't make sense to go through some of the things that I'm going through because of my lack of performance or my lack of implementing the Keller Williams models and systems, which are right in front of me. Similar to having a gym membership and then complaining about not having enough gym equipment, right? The equipment is right in front of me. I have access to those items, and I'm just not picking up the weights, right? I'm not adhering myself or molding myself to what's available to me. And how long am I going to do that, right? Like, how long am I going to live like a mediocre life or just a life that could be better, right? This is all about what could be and going after that, right? So creating your own life, so lifestyle design. First off, I want to thank you for listening to this video, and please feel free to hold me accountable. You have my permission. I do feel like this is I actually shared this idea with other people, trying to get someone else to do this idea. And if you'll notice from some of my past videos, I talk about how ideas are worthless, right? Anybody can have ideas. You have to actually execute the idea for it to actually be valuable. So when I was attempting to pass on the responsibility of this level of execution to someone else because I really want to be a spectator, I didn't want to be the athlete that actually performed. And I just come to a realization that I can't wait for somebody else to do this, right? The idea, it was an idea I had. Probably it's an idea that other people have had before me. Who's going to execute it? If it is to be, it's up to me. And that's it. So every Friday, you'll get a video from me just talking about my journey through a Gary Keller coaching program, if Gary Keller was my coach. If you want to follow along, that's a hashtag. It's a hashtag mycoachgk. So that's MyCoachGK. If I missed anything, right? And like I said, this is I'm developing this as we go along. Here are my notes from today's video. Just thinking about this, just trying to see like what would it look like if he was my coach. If you've been coached by Gary Keller before, or you know someone that was coached by Gary Keller, what was it like? What did he require? What accountability tools did he have in place? Please share those with me. I would love to implement that into this system and just document this process as we go along. So that's it for me. My name is Abraham Walker with Ask A Walker, your Northern Virginia real estate agent, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.